So before we get started, in theory here, I'm Lee, that's Adriano. We'll introduce ourselves in a moment. We're going to do like a little warm up here, though. If you see that in your chat, we're just going to have you meet each other, sort of get the muscles in your mouth working a little bit, sort of wake up, get used to participating. We're going to put you in breakout rooms. And that's a really quick assignment. You're just going to introduce yourself. What do you want to get from today? What could you give? Like, what are you bringing? What do you want to get from the end of the day? You'll just have about 60 seconds apiece, and then we'll come back and we'll do another round of it. Super fast, super short. Just try and avoid the temptation to make it a conversation. So, like, I'd be in it with Rebecca and Deb. I'd go for 60 seconds. Rebecca would go for 60 seconds. Deb would go for 60 seconds. We come back. And then we mix it up again. All right.
What do you want to get? What do you want to give?
Yeah.
60 seconds.
Let me, hold on. Breakout rooms have changed a little bit here since people are coming in. Okay. You may find a new friend who comes into your room, but I think you'll be in pairs. You got about 60 seconds, 90 seconds apiece for 3 minutes. And we'll see you back here in 3 minutes. Enjoy meeting each other. Here we go.
But Lee, that felt so fast.
It did feel fast.
It's the time to talk.
We're going to do it again. You'll meet a couple other folks here. Let's do this. Again, you may just get somebody popping in, but it's great. Another, 3 minutes here, about 60 seconds apiece, give or take. Same question. What are you hoping to get from here or from stuff today? And what are you bringing? Like, what do you know? What can you offer? I'm going to remix the groups. Hopefully you will get to meet some new people. We'll see. I think everyone's here, so maybe not as many people jumping in. I will see you back here in 3 minutes. Okay, welcome back. I see some smiles, which is good. And right, you look like you're smiling. It's good. Adriano, can you just mute folks on the thing if I'm not catching it? So now we're officially starting. We did a little pre-start activity there, so hopefully you all got a little bit of warm up. That's actually the first activity, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Welcome to our meeting skills training here on really helping folks in a leadership capacity or a team capacity and how we do that better. I am Lee, and let's see if my bio fits in here. That's me. And the gentleman to my right or left or below me, depending on where this thing has jumped in, is Adriano Pianesi. I am always happy to be with him. We do a lot of these trainings and work together, and it's a real pleasure. So that's the two of us. We will be here. Hopefully you know this already. This is a half-day online training. Hopefully it will not be a miserable, death by PowerPoint online training. We're going to do 2 blocks, so we're going to go until 10:45, and then we'll take a half-hour break, and you can eat and get some email done or whatever, and then we'll come back and we'll go to 12:30 U.S. Eastern Time. Let's see here. I would say some of, like, we know some of you are new. This is not like a liberating structures training per se, but it's a lot of liberating structures, which is a facilitation methodology. So if you hear us refer to LS or liberating structures, that's what that is. This is really going to be a session where we're doing a lot of stuff. You're going to be practicing it. This is not 2 guys just talking at you for 3 hours and you take notes and then you never apply it. So our goal is that you really will go through probably 5, 6, 7 things in the next 3 hours. And then, later today or tomorrow that you would really be able to use those things. We're going to move fast. We're not going to do, there's a balance between, do we explain a lot of stuff or do we do a lot of stuff? And I think we're going to be more on the do more stuff as opposed to, really do a lot of explaining. So hopefully that is okay for you all. And just some sort of housekeeping stuff here. Oops, let's try this again. There is you are welcome to use the chat. Like, the chat is not sacrosanct. Like, use the chat. It should be going crazy, talk, comment, whatever. If you have questions that you want us to answer that we're not getting to, or you don't want it attached to your name, there's a form there that's just a regular Google form. And then I will call your attention to the last link there that says download the training booklet. And we're going to be going through the training booklet. So if you see visuals, it's going to come from the training booklet. We'll be sharing that. We'll be talking through it. Yeah, I think that's about it. Adriano, happy to have you here, my friend. I know I pass it off to you next. Anything I'm missing or you want to say before we get to the next thing?
Hey, I'm telling you, I had the best conversation in my one-on-one. I wish they would continue. But maybe you want to break to this group the great news of what had just happened in the last few minutes.
So we've already done your first activity. It's an abbreviated version of, here we go. This is in your booklet. This is page, whatever it is, 9. This is impromptu networking. We're not going to talk about it a ton, but it's basically a way to get people to think and talk and interact. And we often do it at the beginning of meetings, although it could be anywhere. It's really fast. It's usually in pairs, but we do it in 3s, often online, because that's more reliable. But the goal is that people each get a chance to share for maybe 60 seconds, 90 seconds, a minute, or 2 minutes, something like that. And you really get a chance to hear and participate, as opposed to, being in a room and I'm looking at you, Serena, like Serena just dominates that room. And you're like, that wasn't much of 3 minutes. So it really is that everyone has a chance to share. So that's what we just did. Congratulations. You're one up in skills here, but something that we like to throw in. That's impromptu networking. I'm going to give it to you, Adriano. We're going to do some intros, I guess.
Yeah, Adriano Pianesi, I am so glad that you've done your first liberating structure. This has changed the way I start meeting normally. This is really fun when you put some background music in a group and you ask everybody to say, what do you want to get? What do you want to give? Everybody goes to a meeting with some expectation. You get them out of their mind right away. You've seen here online, we have limited down just only 2 rounds. We could have done 5, 6, or 7 if there is a huge group. But the fun thing, as you can see in the chat, people have already started networking and get to know each other. So that's the amazing thing of this. Now, you have done one already. You have seen how it felt doing it. And that's really one of the key issues of doing this work here. We're not going to stop and explain all the details and all the steps. It's all written down. But what you want to see is, what is the feeling when you're doing it, so that you can plan it for a meeting that you want to plan. My name is Adriano Pianesi. Introduction, sure. Johns Hopkins. I teach at Johns Hopkins at the Carey Business School. I teach leadership and organizational change. I'm also an executive coach. I met Lee. I walked into one of his immersion and I never left. And I continue to do liberating structure ever since, as really continue to give me a lot of really interesting insight about the life. Go ahead. And what I want to do is move quickly into a second activity, which I would like to share with you in a moment. And I would like to give you a chance to introduce yourself. This is another thing that we're doing. It's called ChatStorm, but we use it online a lot because it's really powerful. I want you to do something that maybe you might think it's weird. Go ahead and write in the chat the answer to the question I'm about to give you, but do not, I repeat, do not hit enter. I repeat, do not hit enter, okay? Write something in the chat, but do not hit enter, all right? So here's what I'm asking you to do. Go in the chat, I repeat, do not hit enter, okay? Very important. Write your name in the chat. Do not hit enter, remember. Number 2, write where you are located in the world. Number 3, the types of meeting that you lead, that you're normally in. And number 4, a challenge that you have with your meeting. So the name, don't hit enter. Please don't hit enter. So name, location, the type of meeting that you do normally, and the challenge. We forgive you, Liz. Don't worry about it. Everybody hit enter. It's natural, but do not hit it yet.
Sorry.
No problem. Don't worry, Liz. You just represent the majority of people here. We all want to hit that enter. You know, our finger is really, really anxious. So again, your name, where you are located, and the type of meeting that you lead and that you're in and for which you're here, and a challenge that you have in your meeting. Do not hit enter yet. So everybody's now writing in the chat and nobody's hitting enter, except me when I started doing this, and Liz, everybody else is not hitting enter. Very nice. Okay, cool. At this point, here is the big reveal. Let's hit enter and let's look at the chat. Let's spend some time in the chat as we see everybody and hitting enter, and let's take a moment, maybe with some background musically, to actually read the information that you can see in the chat.
I'll let them do it quietly because I don't have anything
Oh,
to do.
quietly. Oh, okay.
It's easier for me.
normally put the fifth, Beethoven fifth, or Mozart, or some kind of, but yeah, that's fine. Quietly is okay too. Why do we do ChatStorm? We do ChatStorm because it's much more fun than just reporting back. Reporting back is boring. We want to do quickly and move fast. And as you can see, now we have something in the chat. We can start connecting with people. We don't just do introduction. It's a good way to get lots of input quickly and to let many people read it and digest in proper time. You see, there was a moment of silence. Everybody was doing the same thing, which is key in a group. What you want is the entire group doing the same thing. We are all reading right now. And that's really different than one person entering in the chat. That's why holding that enter button is really, really important. And I want to say that this is our second activity that we want to share with you. This kind of way of sharing information at the beginning of a meeting can be really powerful, especially for groups that don't know each other and for groups that are not really don't know each other, but also don't even know who are the other people in the group. So this is already right now giving you a sense of who are the people in this group. And of course, you can change the question that you ask. So this means that anytime that you have a group, you can spend some time. I put background music normally when people do this kind of work so that makes the experience a little bit more pleasant. But again, you notice there is a level of informal, but you also notice, I know from already the first, that we are pressed for time, don't you? You see that we are doing quickly, and this is not by chance. Is by design. We will talk about that later.
That's to me. All right. So quick intros, right? That would have taken forever if 55 people each took 30 seconds on the mic to say hi. So hopefully we get through some things quickly there. The next thing that I'm going to have you do is probably one of my absolute favorite techniques to teach people. It's called 1, 2, 4, all, and we're going to basically start with you all thinking about the question here that I'm going to give you in the chat, which is, how would you ruin a status update meeting? Some of you are probably thinking it's already been ruined. I have a very good idea. But we've all, first time I got out of college, I started work and we did this Monday morning status update meeting, and it put me to sleep. And I was like, I cannot believe this is going to be the rest of my life. But we know these things, right? They happen every week, every month. What's going on with this team? What's going on with this individual? Just, hey, what's going on? I want to give you all 1 minute. Hopefully you have some paper next to you. I think I mentioned that, but some paper, or you can pull up a little Word doc or something. I'm going to give you 1 minute. On your own, you don't have to do it in the chat. I just want you to think of as many things as you can that would ruin a status update meeting. Just so we're all on the same page, can someone come off mute and give me a dastardly suggestion that would ruin a status update meeting? Somebody. And Angela, quick on the draw. Tell me, Angela. Hey.
Bickering between executives that you got to listen to.
Yeah, perfect. So you could take Angela's as well, but like that. Don't try and solve it. We really do want to come up with something miserable. And Becky, you have your hands up, so I'll give you one. What do you want, Becky?
Letting people ask questions during the status update
would ruin it.
Opening it to questions.
Oh, just opening. Yeah. Are there any questions? Yeah. Okay. Cool. I know there are lots of good ideas. Now it's up to you. I'm gonna cut it off here. So you've got a minute. Write down as many ideas as you can that would ruin a status update. Go. Maybe another 10 seconds or so. Last thought. All right. 3, 2, 1. Your next logical question is probably, okay, I've just come up with a list of 5 or 10 ways to ruin a status update meeting. How does that help anything? And it's a good question, so stick around here. So next step here in this technique, which is in the book, it is page 11 in the book. So this is called 1, 2, 4 all. That was the first step, the one person on one zone for 1 minute thinking of ideas. And you can imagine, we'll talk about this in a bit, but you can imagine how if I had just asked Angela for an idea, it might take a minute or 30 seconds to get one idea. In that same 1 minute with 55 of you, we might have just gotten 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 ideas in that same minute, right? It's much easier to take a big cloud of ideas and distill down instead of just having one person share one idea in 1 minute. Okay, now we're going to go to the 2, 1, 2, 4 all. So that was the 1 on your own. The 2 is pairs. So you're going to meet some other great people. You're going to be in pairs. And you are basically going to just quickly, it's going to be fast. It's only 3 minutes. You're basically going to say, I think my best idea or 2 is this. So like I'm looking at you, Liz DiCarlo. Liz and I would be in a group. And Liz would say, I think a really great way to ruin the status update meeting would be this and this. And I'd say, I think it's this and this. And then we try and come together in a quick 3 minutes and say our top 2 between Liz and Lee are these 2. We write them down. That's your assignment. Easy enough? Okay, it's in the chat. meet a friend, tell them your ideas, hear their ideas, try and come up with 2 good ideas that you both like. Easy enough? All right, 3 quick minutes. We'll see if you can get it done fast. Remember, doesn't have to be perfect today's practice. We're not deciding the future of the country or something. Here we go. Okay. It felt fast, right? Felt fast? Yeah. So we're sort of doing it by the book. We could give you more time, but the reality is, like, we don't actually have to solve this really difficult problem here. You just have to get a sense for how it works and what it looks like. Often we give you more time. It's a good way to get people to connect and share and sort of build trust within a group. But hopefully you all got, an idea or 2 that you like within your pairs. And I know it's a little chaotic. Some people were coming in and out. We added 3 to some rooms. It's fine. Adriano, I have lost you on my screen, but you want to show folks mural here? Where did I lose my friend Adriano?
You
drop a link in the chat.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I didn't see you. Okay.
I'm here, yes.
Tell us about Mural.
So I wanted to say, I'm about to introduce you to a tool that can really change your online meeting. This is called Mural, and I'm going to share with you. Now, don't panic. It may be you never used it, but it's really, really cool. So look at this. I'm going to share with you in the screen. I am now in Mural. You see, this is a link. No sign in required. You just click the link. Now, I want to show you how you move inside a mural, and thank you for those of you that are already here. So you use the wheel of your mouse. Look, I am moving the wheel of your mouse back, or I'm moving further. You see, I'm zooming in and zooming out. Okay, super easy. Super easy. And those of you that are kind of expert in this, take a yellow Post-it note and put it in the circle to show up how good you are with Mural. I know that some of you are expert already, but anyway, those of you that are not, zoom in with the wheel of the mouse, zoom out with the wheel of the mouse. So that's the first thing to do. Second thing to do, you click somewhere.
Adriano,
Yes.
can I just remind, so like I have a wheel of the mouse so I can move in and out, but if you don't, there's that little like zoom in and out on the bottom right for folks, right?
Yes, that's right. And if you want to move in a mural, you click somewhere, and if you want to move right, you see, you click and you move right. You click and you move down. You click and you move left. So as you can see, you have the ability to zoom in or out and then to move in different part of the mural. Okay? You are moving. You see, you click and drag, and that allow you to move around. Now, this is Mural for you. There's not much more that I can tell you. But really, another awesome thing about Mural, the reason why we're using it today, I want to show you something cool. You want to do a brainstorming with 55 people? You go in our brainstorming board. Let me call you here. Look, I have incredible power. That's another reason why I love this. It gives your as a facilitator, you can summon people with the click of a button. Incredible power. So I'm summoning you here. I don't even know what the word means, but I will do it anyway. Here we go, 44 people. And now look, when you click on double click, you create a Post-it note out of nothing. So you want to write an idea, all you need to do is to double click and write. Look, I'm writing test. Look on my idea, test. You see, I had simply double clicked and typed. This is test 2. How cool is that? And how do I drag this? Now I know that you're going to do huge Post-it note that take like many square meters of paper if they were in real life. But what you want to do is small one, okay? Because the mural is a virtual space, but it's a limited space. But I guess you already know what is the next instruction here. The next instruction is to type your 2 ideas, the one that you found in the breakout room. Put those 2 ideas in the post and in the board. In a moment, you're going to be moving in a breakout room with 4 people. That will be the portion of 4 or 1, 2 for all. So you have done the 1 by yourself. You've done the pair in the breakout of 2. And now you're going to go in a breakout in a group of 4. In your group of 4, you're going to select ideas that, sounds like everybody's already writing. So I don't know what will be the next step. But I would like to come together in the group of 4 and define 2 ideas that are the one that are absolutely the best in your group. Okay? Lee, I think we can start the breakout. What I'm asking each group, each breakout, to select out of all the ideas that you have, the 2 that they are best. I'm going to make some order in the board as soon as you are in the breakout, so you will have some space. Lee, I think we can start the breakout.
We can. I'm just making a couple changes to group everybody together. So basically, we've moved your pairs of 2 into pairs of 4, or that's what I'm attempting to do quickly here. Any questions on Mural while I just get this thing started? I just have like 1 more minute to change 2 more rooms. Anything else before I do it?
I think, yeah, we want to move forward, Lee. And why don't we drop the link about the questions in the chat in case people have questions?
I just did it.
Okay, great. Beautiful.
And we're going to give you 6 minutes in there. See if you can come up with 2 ideas that you really like. Actually, let's give you 5 minutes. 2 ideas that you really like between your group of 4. Write it on the board. It's already going a little bananas, but you guys will get the sense for it. So between your group of 4, try and come up with 2 good ideas. And there we go. Okay.
I know some of you are professional with Mural. Those of you that are not, do not worry about it, okay? This is really something that you get the hang up after you use it 2 or 3 times. But you notice what we have done. This is, you have been brainstorming ideas, and this awesome mural is actually evidence of all the ideas that have been brainstormed. What I would like to do now is give you maybe a couple of people, 1 of 2 groups, if you want to tell me what ideas came up, that what was the 1 idea that you think was more fun to actually share in this context? What would be 1 idea that would definitely destroy a status meeting? Anyone?
I think the strongest one that came up for us was like kind of an unspoken or unresolved emotional relational dynamic.
Yes.
Kind of throwing everything off.
Taking that time, isn't it, the status meeting to do that, which is really not a great use of time. Fabulous, fabulous, great group work. Susan, please.
Good to see you, Adriano.
Same here, what a pleasure.
Yeah, pleasure indeed. So in our group, we talked about folks that dominate the conversation. So the long-winded talkers that go on and on and on and on.
Yes.
And everybody else is just rather bored.
Have this happened in this meeting? I mean, we have to wonder why it didn't happen in this meeting. I mean, maybe we're going too fast. But anyway, thank you, Susan. I appreciate it. So what are we doing here is the all part of 1, 2 for all. 1, you have actually thought 1 minute. You remember when Lee gave you the instruction. 2, you were in a breakout room with 2 minutes with 2 people talking about some ideas. 3, you're actually ask in a group to brainstorm idea. Did you notice something? When I ask, does anyone has anything to say? What normally happen in your team, in your group, when you ask that question to a large group? Can somebody tell me what happened when you ask that question in a large group like this normally?
Nobody answers.
That's right. Look, thank you, Stephen. Jump into it right away, correct? Why do you think is that? Is it because of my Italian accent? Is because of the elegant demeanor? I don't think so. Is because you did 1, 2 for all, correct? You were given time to think. You heard another person talking. Then you heard a group of 4. And now when I ask, what are your thoughts? Oh, man, you know what to say for sure. You jump in right away. Welcome to a new way to debrief groups. I am in every course at Hopkins, or I would say in every situation where I want a group to really do work, I use 1, 2, 4, all. It allows you to bring your debriefing to an entire different level. It gives you the ability to really tap into what the group thinks. And what I love here is that this has been an actual demonstration of that. 1, 2, 4, all. Of course, you can do many variations. You can do 1, 3, 6, all. Or you can do 1, 3, all. Or you can do 1, 6, all. You can do all sorts of variation. But online, we recommend 1, 3, 6, all. Because online, if you do a 2 and the person is by themselves, they're not going to have a lot of fun. So 3 allows them to actually make sure that you're together. So I want to go back into this. And now I would like to ask a couple of volunteers to help me cluster those beautiful ideas. Now, I don't know if this is a technique, but clustering is another thing that we will need to learn if we want to really tap in a group and we want to allow the group to work together. So go ahead and help me with clustering here. What I kind of suspect, and this is pretty common, is that there are some clear clusters of disaster, a way to ruin a status update, which are emerging. And let me give you another moment here. It's wrong, finding fault, dominating the conversation. I mean, what seems to me that is emerging is that we don't know why we're here. There is really no purpose. I mean, several answers here are really summarizing a meeting where there is no purpose. And because it's that purpose then that allow everyone to have a different purpose and therefore wasting your time. So what is the actual issue here of a status meeting like this? It could very well be a lack of purpose. Why are we doing the meeting at all? Why are we doing the meeting at all? And the truth is, especially in corporate context, the meeting is a standing meeting. So we have been doing always, and we have not longer asked, why are we doing this? We just do it. And what happened in those situations? When you're actually in that situation, you end up not knowing really why the meeting is called, but you are in the meeting anyway. And the purpose is the silent guardrail of everything that we are doing. Why do people talk about the weekend? Maybe because they think that that's what they're supposed to do in that meeting. Why there are no time boundaries? Why are they talking about anything else so they are not respectful? Maybe there could be many reasons, but one way to prevent that is for sure to be crystal clear about what is the purpose of your meeting. And I want to talk to you about something that I have found that is a great help to actually understand how to find out the purpose of your meeting. It's a liberating structure that is called 9 Whys, and it comes straight from the actual concept of the quality technique of the 70s. Let me show you an example of 5 Whys, because I think it's going to give you a lot of tool to actually use this work. Look, somebody already moved my, I love it. Somebody is moved my, okay, here we go. What are 9 Whys? Exactly what you heard is an actual process. No, you cannot move that, my friend. I locked it in case you were trying to move it. Anyway, it's a series of why question that you ask every time you have to have a meeting. So look at this sequence. Why do we hold weekly status meeting? Well, the answer is probably to review progress. And why do we need to review progress? So everyone knows where projects stand. And why does everyone need to know where the projects stand? To coordinate work and avoid surprise. So you see, we are doing a status meeting to avoid surprises. But that's not really true. In fact, why is coordinating and avoiding surprises important? Because interdependent tasks can drift off track. So you see, we do status meeting as a defensive mechanism to prevent off track. And why do tasks drift off track? Because assumptions form in silence. So status meeting and that hour and a half that we spend every Monday morning is because we are assuming that people will form assumption in silence. Wouldn't that be a better way to actually prevent the creation of assumption in silence than just dedicated an hour and a half every week? You see, if you are doing this exercise, and of course this is just an example, what you're doing, you're uncovering the reason why things make sense. And you have much more interesting conversation than just go ahead and do the status meeting. Here is my challenge for you. And this is a prompt that I really challenge you because it's not an easy one, to be honest. I am going to ask you to think why you're doing your own status meeting. Think for a moment and don't tell me that the reason is the one that we see on the screen, because I'm sure that there are other reasons. So let me cover this just in case. And I would like for you for a moment to think about what is, here we go. Why are you doing your status meeting? And then after you ask the first why, ask yourself, and why is that important? And then ask again, why is that important? Don't do more than 4 or 5, otherwise you go into philosophical, into big deal, into the stratosphere, into philosophical kind of values or changing the world of ending world hunger. Stay on the ground, do 4 or 5 rounds and tell me, do this work on your own. Why are you doing your own status update meeting? Go ahead and try to do the sequence at least for 5 rounds. Why you're doing it? When you answer, you say, why is that important? When you answer, and why is that important? Do it for at least 4 or 5 times, and then we will talk. All right. Sounds like you are to kind of a point in which you have delved into the real purpose of your meeting. Now, what is the power of 9 whys? It really allows you to understand why you're doing things. I don't need to tell you how helpful that could be, not just when you're planning a meeting, but in general, when you're doing work, especially work that your organization has been doing for a very long time. Now, it needs to be done gently when you're doing it in group, because why can cause defensiveness, okay? So when you're doing it in group or individually even, you can do it on your own. When you're saying, why do I have to go running? Why do I have to go to the gym? And you will end up realizing that has nothing to do with you trying to lose weight. There's so many other reasons behind it. And you go to the much deeper understanding of why you're doing things. Yes, crockpot thinkers and instant. I love that, Terry. Exactly what we're doing here. Go ahead, Lee.
I was following the chat about the guy spilling coffee on himself, so I was distracted in our own meeting here. If we go back to Adriano, do you have it on screen share? Can you just put it on screen share, Adriano, and go back to the our preset imagined list of the clusters that came up and just share that for folks? So, we've run this activity quite a bit over the years, and it's a little bit like that cooking show, right? Where you say, we're going to put the cake into the oven, and now we have a baked cake. And this is a little bit of like what we would typically see if we had more time to go through all of the brainstorming stuff that you guys came up with. And what we'll see is a lot of ideas come up with or come down to no purpose, or they'll come down to no action or nothing happens. And then the third one is, I think, no buy-in there. If we slide over, I think, right, Adriano? That's the third one. And so that's basically what we're talking to here over the next, hour or so is Adriano walked you through the 9 whys, which gets to purpose. And we're going to talk about a couple things about, action and making sure that stuff happens. Some of that will be later. The thing that I want to talk about now is what, who, when, which is not a liberating structures thing, but is something that we use quite a bit, that I use quite a bit, that's come from sort of a conglomeration of other kind of best practices out in the project management world, whatnot. Actually, I'm going to share on mine, Adriano, and let's see. There we go. Okay. Let me take you over to this. Super simple. I mean, it almost feels like it shouldn't have a name and that we shouldn't have to name this, but it's just a who, what, when matrix, or a what, who, when matrix. But we're basically saying at the end of a meeting, like, we often come up with these great ideas and we say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then we look at each other and we go, great. And then we do nothing about it, right? So this is really just a simple matrix to say, what is it that we're doing? Who's doing it? And by when are they going to do it? It's super simple, but I think a lot of meetings miss this. We come up with all these great ideas, and then we miss the sort of takeaway with it. What I would say is the who is could be something where Amanda Steffen is like, that's me, I'm great at that, I love doing that. Or it could be that Amanda Steffen is your boss and says to Jean, that's your responsibility, and we put a name on it. But what I think is key is that there is actually a name to these things, and there is a time on them, or else it's just a wish. And often we see things on here that will say, like, we will. Who's we? It's probably not me, right? So, an actual name, maybe it's a pair. It's Matthew Garth and Rebecca Chavez are working on this thing together, but like, we as a team, not super helpful. So that's who, what, when, or what, who, when, depending on the order of the columns there. And I think it's just a really easy hack, a reminder to say, we get to the end of a meeting, what is the structure that I use, and what do I do with it next? I will say it's 10:30 here. Give me 1 sec, Susan, I'll get to. It's 10:30, so we've been here for an hour. Hopefully, for better or worse, I think it feels like a fast hour. And then we'll give you, it doesn't feel like a boring hour is my hope, but that you've picked up a number of skills. What I want to say before I sort of go, I'll take your question, Susan, and then I'll sort of go through what we've talked about today. Something that I think Adriano and I think about a lot is when most people, when they become leaders or fall into managing teams or community groups or whatever it is, never get any training in how to do that. And they almost never get a minute of training on how to run a meeting, even though that becomes, 10%, 50%, 100% of the job. So it's less about being a good architect and more about managing a team of architects, something like that. And so if people ever get meeting training, which they almost never do, they learn how to, someone says you should create an agenda, and you write down what's basically just a wish list of what we're going to cover in this meeting. And I think of an agenda as a little bit like a Thanksgiving menu, right? It's like what I want to eat doesn't teach me how to cook a turkey or how to make mashed potatoes. And that's what we're trying to do here today, is sort of teach you how to cook the turkey or make the mashed potatoes, or give you those like knife skills or cooking skills or whatever. Agendas are often fine, but there's a part of the agenda that says like brainstorm or decide on action or something. And then we've gotten thrown into this role and we don't really know how to do it. And we watch the person before us do it, and that person didn't know how to do it. So we just sort of keep copying it. And so I think we're trying to break that cycle here a little bit. And I'm going to just review what we've done here today, a little bit before we go to break. That said, Susan Levin, you have your hand up.
Thanks, Lee. One clarifying question on the matrix here, and I use this as like an action plan.
Yeah.
Would the when be the deadline for the task, or would it be the start date, or? What do
I
you
think of it as a deadline. I mean, I would say if your team wants to take a different spin on it, I think the simplicity of this is really what's great. I think there's a lot of project management tools that are like, it's a waterfall, and there's all kinds of stuff. But
Sure.
this to me is quite simple. I would say, if Maria doesn't draft that initial email sequence by March 15th, the team is upset and sad, and we have to have a conversation or something. But yeah, maybe it is start by, but I think it's probably end by. That would be my guess.
Thanks, Lee.
Yeah. All right, we got a couple minutes left. Let me sort of slide into the break, and yeah, it's gone fast. Thank you all for joining us again here. Let me go back through what we've done, and I know some folks, like government firewalls, may have blocked the download here. So if you still don't have this and you need it, like, drop us a note in the chat, or I tried to drop this into the chat as a file. Maybe that worked instead of the link. But let me just talk through what we've done so far. Here we go. Okay. The chat storm that Adriano led you through, we used it as an introduction. It doesn't just have to be an introduction. It's a really good way to get a bunch of people to give you a bunch of information quickly, and also let a bunch of people digest and read and think through that information quickly, instead of, Amanda goes, and then Matthew goes, and then Quest goes, and then Godor goes, and then Jen goes, and then, right, it just takes forever. So I think a lot of times when we can give people a chance to think about it and then share it, through text or whatever, then it works much faster. Introductions are good, but also if I asked you the same question, how would I ruin a meeting, and we did it as a chat storm, that goes much faster than me saying, Tony, what do you think? Shelly, what do you think? And we just spend a lot of time on that. Impromptu networking was actually the first thing we did, although we kind of cached it as a secret thing. I was like, before we start, we're going to do this little thing. It's a really good way to get people loosened up. It's a really good way to get people thinking and talking about the topic at hand. It's a way to build connections, and I think some of this social safety or security feeling that we want in meetings. And I think mostly when we have meetings, we're thinking about them being collaborative, and we're thinking about people coming together. And if we're just going to say that you show up at this meeting and someone just talks at you and talks at you and talks at you, it's really hard to feel like you're supposed to be there. So like from the start or during this meeting, pairs, threes, quick little snippets. What do you think? What's going on? It's a really simple thing to throw into meetings. You can do it online. You can do it in person. That's impromptu networking. Triz, we didn't really talk about, but we did it. You didn't see it happen. We asked you this question: how would you ruin a status update meeting, right? Which feels kind of like a ridiculous question to ask, right? Because we don't want to ruin it. We want to make it better. And often what happens is when we're leading meetings, we ask for like the ideal state. How would we come up with a product that everyone wants to buy? How would we schedule an event that everyone wants to attend? How would, it's very similar to like, how would you come up with, the partner that you want to live with and date and marry? And we often come up with like the same kind of tired, banal things of like, it would be fun. It would be productive. And it doesn't really help us. But if you ask it the negative way, it tends to be a lot more illustrative and richer and more specific, right? So if I say, what do we want? What would ruin our product? What would make someone not ever want to buy our, whatever, our peanut butter? It'd be so hard to mix, and it would come separated, and it would, it would taste bad, and it would have all these that's quite different than it would be fresh, right? So we do this thing where we ask it backwards. It's Triz. I think of it as opposite questions. And it's a really easy hack to get better answers. Of course, the problem is you end up with negative questions, right? Or negative suggestions, right? All these ways to ruin a status update meeting. And this is your magic trick for the day. This is where, as a facilitator, you get to pull this little trick on people after they've been laughing and having a good time and complaining, right? It's fun to how would we mess this thing up? And you say, how many of those things are we already doing? Right? And I see people laughing and smiling, but it is a really, like, people have already bought into, this is how we would ruin it, and that would make it terrible and awful, and it would mean that no one would want to do business with us. We're already doing it. Whew. Okay, now let's solve it, right? And now let's flip it. So that's basically what we would do here. We'd say, these are the problems with the status update meeting. Like, there's no purpose. Let's use 9 whys, right? Those sorts of things. So that's this little hidden part of the question we asked you. And probably you were thinking to yourself, why would you want to ruin it? That's why. It's a technique itself. 1, 2, 4 all that Adriana walked you through is a really easy way to get a bunch of information quickly, to brainstorm, to find solutions, to sort of cut out a lot of the edge cases and the crap and the less popular stuff and settle on things that are the most popular, the most feasible, or the most whatever it is, and have energy behind that. And that's why we love it. Lots of different spins on it. 1, 2 all, 1, 2, 4 all, 1, 3 all, lots of different ways to do it. But especially I think if we just think about that moment, we've done this a number of times, just the one, thinking on your own is a really big change for most groups, where it's like, what do you think? Hand goes up and it's Steve. And Steve is the guy who always talks and always starts and never has the good ideas. If we just say, we're all going to take a minute and think, and then we're going to pair up and we're going to do this, we sort of blunt some of that force of Steve, who's the guy who always has the best idea and actually does not. So that's 1, 2, 4 all. Adriana walked you through sticky note clustering. I know there's some experts here who are visual folks who do a lot of this, but a super easy way to make meetings better is, instead of people just talking into the ether and there are all these ideas floating out there, can we actually organize them in a way where we can see them and we can make sense and we can see the themes and we know what to do about them? 9 whys, right? Sounds like you're talking to a 3-year-old, why, but it really does help you get to, why are we here? What are we doing? What's our purpose? What does success look like? And then there's that who, what matrix right there. I'm going to give you just another minute or so, well, like 2 minutes here. If you would take a minute thinking about what we've gone through, we're almost at time. Like, again, hopefully it feels fast in a good way. And if you would just hit that link, and if you have questions, if you have feedback, gives us a chance to sort of understand what's out in the room and what questions there are over the next 30 minutes. And we will, we'll see you in a little bit. I'm not closing this yet, but just write your questions down. I'll give you a minute of silent thinking there. I'm just going to talk over you a little bit. You're welcome to keep typing, though. Adriano, anything you want to say before we send people to break and I wrap up here?
Just want for you to do a personal mental check. You've been in a meeting for 1 hour and 43 minutes. Sorry, for 1 hour and 15 minutes. So think for a moment about how are you in terms of energy or engagement or value, and please consider this information, because this is important data for when you will have to actually use these tools and this kind of work with others. Big insight. We are putting you through the process, and then we talk about how you can do the same with others. So check with yourself in terms of your energy, your connection, your physical and mental and spiritual. Go back a moment within yourself and check, where are you right now? Because I think that the power of this work is in having a direct impact without being too philosophical, or how you show up with others. Yeah, I think we're ready for a break.
Yeah. All right. So we will give you 30 minutes. We'll be back here at 11:15 U.S. Eastern Time. Really appreciate y'all coming and being with us. And I will say, one of the best, we'll talk about this after the break, but one of the best things that you can ever do when you are working with teams and groups is to give them a break so they don't hate you. And that's what we're going to do. Go to the bathroom, get some more coffee, reply to those emails that may be sitting there on your desk. We will see you back at 11:15, trying to start and end on time. We'll see you guys in a bit. Thanks so much for coming. Hello and welcome back. I think it is actually 11:15 here. So the first thing that I want to talk about is why we just did what we did. So let me get back on to, can I do this? Here we go. Okay. So Adriano and I do a lot of work where we are running meetings for other organizations, or we are helping them plan their meetings. It is often not an insignificant amount of money for people to say, help us run this important meeting. And one of the things that is a really easy low-hanging fruit is to come in and say, oh, you're doing a strategic planning session. You're going from 9 to 5, and I see you're taking 36 minutes for lunch with no breaks the rest of the day. And because we are meeting experts, we get to say, people are going to be really tired, really unproductive, and they're going to hate you. And we should add some breaks. And the pushback is like, oh, it's really, really important. It's super important. We have so much work to do. We have to go 9 to 12, and then we have to go 12:36 to 5 o'clock. There's so much to get done. And then what usually happens is at about 10:16 a.m., people are done. And they're done like, because they're not even doing fun stuff like this. They're mostly just being lectured and they're being talked at, and they've got a whole day of that. And so what we think is going to be really productive, and we're going to use all this time, doesn't work the way we think it is. So people are just exhausted and brain dead and resentful, and they're distracted, and they're doing emails, and they're thinking about their family, and, you know, like all this stuff that makes it really hard to have a successful meeting. So I'm not going to go through all the reasons why we take breaks that's in the shared screen and in your document here, but I would just say it's a good way to get people to re-energize. It's a good way to get people to connect and like sort of share on the sidelines, which is often more successful or more helpful than what's happening in many meetings. It's a good way to chunk information. It's a good way to say we need to get done by a certain time, and here's our chapter. We're going to do that. Lots of really good reasons. As a typical rule, I would think every hour or hour and a half, we're probably taking 10 or 15 minutes of a break. So like we just did an hour and a half, we took a 30-minute break. We'll do another hour and a half, you know, give or take. But if we're going to say we're going to do 3 hours with no break, people are probably going to be exhausted, and you're not going to get good results, even, you know, if you think you're using the time wisely. So breaks, super easy intervention, very low risk. People like it. So use breaks. Welcome back. That was my bit about breaks. Now I think, you know, funny, we're an hour and a half into this, and what I said is we're not going to teach you agendas and whatever else. But now at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Adriano, who's just going to talk a little bit about different kinds of meetings, which, you know, we're going to sort of loop back to at this point.
I mean, I know that the issue of focus has come up several times. I mean, and the issue of purpose, including what Lee just told us. Are we focused? Because, you know, it's energy management, correct? A break is a strategy to increase the level of energy of participant. The focus is another way to make sure that the energy is focalized towards the actual focus of the meeting. So here is something I want to share with you, which I think is really, really important for our conversation. And again, I'm going to Mural. I love Mural, and I'm always there. So power of focus. You got to decide if your meeting is an A, a B, a C, or a D meeting. You get to decide before you actually do it. Because here's the trick. A lot of times your meeting are A, B, C, and D. That's way too much. Your meeting ideally should just have one of those letters. A stands for action planning. You are meeting because you want to decide what action to take. It's a coordination meeting in which you're coming together and you're saying, okay, John does this, Erin does this, Jean does this, Ryan does this. That's it. This is by when, this is the work, this is A, action meeting. It's a coordination meeting, action planning meeting, whatever that is. B is brainstorming. Hey, you know, I really no idea about how to address and how to do this. What can we do to improve meetings here? Let's brainstorm some ideas. We just did it earlier. That's brainstorming. It's a process in which you want as many ideas as possible, then you cluster them and you come up with something. At the end, that's the B for brainstorming. That's very different than the A of action planning. And then there is C. We are actually having a conversation. And what is a conversation? You know, Rebecca, I really didn't appreciate that email that you sent me that day. And I really want to talk, you know, and I think that this conversation is relevant to the entire team. And I think we need to talk as a team. Or, I don't know, Brittany, you know what? Your report was late. And I don't want to talk about that because, you know, I'm sure you have good reason. But as a team, how can we not do that anymore? Maybe that become a brainstorming. But it starts as a conversation. You know what I mean? That's a very different kind of meeting. And then you have a final kind of meeting, which is the D, the decision. We need to make a decision. What are we doing about this thing? Now, normally what happens is that your meeting, our meeting, my meeting, Lee's meeting, when they are in a hurry, they are A, B, C, and D. We brainstorm and we decide and we have a conversation and then we do action planning. My recommendation, make a clear distinction. 3 of 4 purposes make you lose focus, make you lose engagement. So focus on one, we're meeting for this. And another tip, do not call it meeting. People hate meetings. Don't call it meeting, okay? Call it, if we are here to make a decision, call it a decision sprint. If we are here to actually brainstorm an idea, call it idea session. Don't call it meeting. The word has lost power, unfortunately. Call it something else. So you restate for clarity. A is for action planning. B is for brainstorming. C is for conversation. And D is for decision making. Go ahead, Lee.
Trying to respond to something in the chat. I was distracted in my own decision.
Yes. And by the way, I dropped something in the chat. It's a very interesting intellectual foundation of liberating structure for the nerd in this group. I'm really excited for all of you to pick it up and have all the intellectual foundations of liberating structures. And I hope it can be helpful to those of you that want to go a little deeper. Go ahead, Lee.
Thank you. Can you all see my screen? It says MinSpecs, and can you read it? I should have asked this before. Kind of ish. Is it okay? Okay. Also, you should have it. And if you couldn't get it, like email me afterwards, and we'll try and figure out how to get it to you. If not, dropping it into the chat or giving you a link to it. I want to talk about MinSpecs. One of the things that, as we were looking at the feedback for what we want to fix in meetings and how do we make them better, is ultimately we judge the meeting by, did something come out of it? Did we get action? Did we decide something? Did we build something, right? And MinSpecs, or minimum specifications, is a really easy sort of mental exercise to go through to say, how do we cut through the crap and like really just get done the stuff that we need to get done? And I think a lot of teams, a lot of organizations struggle with that. I will tell you, when I usually teach this, I talk about if I need to make it to work or to a meeting or, you know, to an event or something like that at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I think we all kind of do this, right? I kind of hope we all do this, right? As you sort of go, oh man, I woke up late, I'm late, what do I need to do? You start cutting out these things. If you say, usually I need to eat breakfast, I need to take a shower, I need to brush my teeth, I need to shave, right? You start saying, I don't think I need to eat. I don't think I need to shower. I think I just need to like fix my hair. I don't think I need to shave, right? I need to get there. And that's the minimum spec, right? The minimum spec is arrive in that room, in my seat at 9 o'clock. And I think we can debate what is minimum here, right? What often comes up, people think they're very funny. They go, well, you know, getting dressed, you'd have to get dressed. But I mean, in a true sense of it, maybe I don't, right? Maybe I just show up in my pajamas. Like the requirement is get there on time. It's not necessarily be presentable, right? I don't want you to think that showing up naked to a meeting is what we're advocating here today. But I think what often happens is groups look at this maximum spec of sets or maximum specs, and they think we have to do everything, and it's very, very off-putting, and you know, and you can't get started. So, thanks, Trina. So instead of the how do we get to, you know, work on time at 9 o'clock, I want to give you this question. What are the requirements for responding to a customer complaint in a way that protects trust and strengthens the relationship, right? Fair? I'm just going to have you put this in chat. It's not like a chat storm. It's just whatever you think. Let's put it in here. I don't want you to think about the ultimate best only thing to do, but what are all the things that we need to do to make this true? Someone want to give me a suggestion before I turn you loose on chat? Anything that we would do to respond to a customer complaint in a way that protects. Anyone want to come off mute and just tell me? Go. Or not. You guys are in the chat anyway. I'm going to just let it go in the chat. I saw your hand though, Angela. Credit to you. All right. Put it in the chat. What could we do to fix these customer complaints? Anything. Don't just focus on the one gold-plated thing. Anything, everything. What do we have to do? What is it? Okay. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. This is really more almost a thought exercise than a meeting technique, or it's a philosophy or approach, right? In the same way that Triz, right, the backwards question, it's really a pretty simple thing to say. We're going to ask the question differently. Here, we're sort of asking the end of the meeting differently of like, we got all this stuff that we need to do. What do we really, really need to do? And so the question that we then ask ourselves, and this is in the booklet, is if we didn't do that thing from our max specs that we've just come up with, would it break? Would it violate our ultimate goal here, right? So, you know, if we go through any of these, we might say it's a nice to have, it's a good to have, but is it the absolute necessary first thing to start with, right? So, you know, I think probably at the top of this list of, what is it? Apologize. So many ideas that came up here so quickly. Okay. What are the requirements for responding to a customer complaint in a way that protects trust and strengthens the relationship? Probably on that list is apologize to the customer, or fix the customer's issue or something like that. There are a lot of other things that we could say are important. Understand what went wrong, fix the process, document the process, all that stuff is important, right? But if we get tied up and we have to do all that stuff right now, maybe the train has already left for, you know, doing the work that we need to do and the thing that's really most important. When I was teaching this a couple months ago, SpaceX had just shot off one of the big rockets, and it had blown up, right? And I think they are a very good example of a min-specs organization where they're like, the minimum spec is to make sure that the rocket or the engine gets it off the pad. Beyond that, it's gravy, but that's what we're trying to check. And then it blows up and they're like, all right, well, we got what we needed. Let's come back and let's do it again. Compared to, I think, another organization that's probably looking at like max specs and trying to do the max specs all the time, make sure everything's always perfect all the time, all right. The difference between, like, say, SpaceX and NASA, right? Both great organizations. But I think you would say one is like, we need to look at everything and fix everything, make sure everything's right. And one of them's like, let's move fast, let's take care of the important stuff, move on, iterate, keep going, right? Not saying you should run your organization like SpaceX necessarily, but, you know, I think in this case, it is an organization that is moving faster because it is maybe caring about only the most important things, right? Yeah, so that's min specs. It's a good way to get a group focused on, like, what do we really, really care about? And I think if you add a label to it, this is called min specs, this is why we do it. It adds some heft to it as opposed to just like, let's just think about important things. So that's that technique. A lot of what we're trying to do here today, I think, changes the structure of ordinary meetings from person stands in front of room, does PowerPoint, asks if there are any questions. There are no questions. We move on, successful meeting, and trying to give you some other tools to work with in your own lives, your own work. That said, Adriana, you want to transition us to the next interview here?
Yes, I want to go back to the actual work that we are doing in this room. Try to show you some liberating structure. And you might not know that, but we have already done 5 of those liberating structure. But we're about to do another one now, which I think is going to be gold, pure gold, for those of you that are plagued by the problem of the century in corporate America, PowerPoint slides. I know that you hate PowerPoint slides. My students know not to ask me when I teach at Hopkins, where are the slides? Because there are any. There are no slides in my courses, you know? So the point is, how do you get rid of the inevitable moment when somebody comes and want to show you 60 slides? And of course, they have very good reason. Sometimes they're even the boss. And so how do you stop that dynamic? We are about to show you a way that actually prevent that. And I want to do it involving one participant. I have asked, voluntold actually, Rebecca to actually showcase this method, which is called celebrity interview. So without any further ado, I invite Rebecca to take the stage and interview me and Lee to answer a few questions. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Adriano. So as mentioned, I'll be conducting the celebrity interview. I have a series of questions to get through, and my understanding is that they're in the booklet, and anything that we don't get to in the next 15 minutes will be answered by email. So let's start with, we've already spoken a bit about focus. So let's start with multitasking. Will you share how Liberating Structures addresses multitasking?
Go ahead, Lee.
Yeah, I mean, this is a little harder. We're online. I know I have a bunch of tabs open, although I'm not doing the other tab stuff, but I think online is certainly different than in person. I would say, just to use the in-person example and then carry it forward to online, the first thing is, if we are active, it's quite hard to be multitasking. And I don't mean that to be punitive, but I think if I'm actually involved in this meeting, then I participate in this meeting. Most meetings, I don't actually have to be there for the meeting, so I don't participate. When we sit people down, we think a lot about the structure and the furniture and stuff. And like, we often do stuff where, like corporate retreats and whatever, where there are no tables. And it seems a little crazy, but when you don't give people tables, they don't put out their laptops. And when they don't put out their laptops, they stay with you and they're not like trying to do all this other stuff. And I think it's a pretty good metaphor for how the rest of this works, is if we keep people engaged and invested in the work that they're doing, then they don't do other stuff. The other thing that I would say is, it's a bit of a canary in a coal mine, that I would say, if you were holding a meeting and people are doing other stuff, they are adults and they're not dumb, right? And you may not want it, but right, if I'm on my phone doing other stuff, I'm probably saying this is more important than me being here. And I think there's probably a cultural change that many organizations have adapted, that sort of open space-ish from that technique, to say, if you are not valuable at this meeting, you don't have to be at this meeting. And I think particularly online, we invite 50 people to a meeting. We really only needed 4. And I think that's what people are often telling us. That's my 2 cents anyway.
Interesting.
Go ahead, Rebecca, with the next question.
Yeah, interesting. So speaking of making changes, could you share how people can engage in this kind of work when it's so different from what they're used to?
I love that question, because, it is really goes at the heart of what does it mean to bring about change in organization, which is really my specialty. I can tell you one thing that is really key. This, and you probably noticed, this work is about leadership. It's not really about meeting. It's about actually bringing about a part of yourself and trying to make something happen because you have seen a problem and you want to give a really little contribution. So, number 1, what is your purpose? for doing that. That's very important. Like in every leadership work, it's very important to understand what's your purpose. So be clear about what you're trying to do. 2, do not expect that people clap on a side. You know, when you exercise leadership, some people might not love it at first, but then they love it later. And number 3, the key thing here, the bar is so low. Okay, the bar of your meetings, with all due respect, of our meetings, of every meeting in every organization, is so low that there is really little risk in trying to implement this kind of methodologies in your online meeting or in your face-to-face meeting. So yes, it's a leadership challenge, but here's the deal. Do it. My recommendation, do it. Do one of this maybe. Do impromptu networking. Do 1, 2 for all the first time. See the joy sparkling in people's eyes and then be inspired to then change more. That's my answer here.
Great, thank you. I definitely hear just do it, which feels a little easier to do when you're in charge of the meeting. But what about when how do you change a meeting that you don't own?
I love this question too. And Lee, I'll let you talk, I promise, after I answer this. And the question is, what I would love to tell you is this. If you don't own the meeting, that's already telling me that you have a problem. Because if you don't own the meeting, that means it's not your meeting, correct? So you're in a meeting that you don't care about. So that means that whoever owned the meeting has already made some mistake. But even if you are talking about owning a meeting in a more general sense, this is called guerrilla facilitation. A meeting starts without a purpose. I have a question before we start. Can I ask the organizer, what is the purpose? Why are we doing this meeting? What is the purpose of this meeting? What is the outcome that you hope to achieve? This is not really a liberating structure thing, but you know, and we will show you later a couple of prompts, because some liberating structure are group processes. Some liberating structure are very powerful group prompt. And those group prompts can be thrown into a meeting even if it's not yours.
Trying to do this on the side and comment on, it's very meta, I'm commenting on us commenting. Yeah, I would say the other thing is like, if we look at Post-it notes and stuff, I will often, I know there are probably people in this room, and I'm looking at like Angela and Trina, and probably like, if you're in a meeting and people are talking and it's like this kind of meeting, right? We just sit around a table and we do this. All these ideas just go up into the air and we all just sort of sit there and maybe we're taking our own notes and maybe there's a secretary taking notes. But it's really hard for the room to understand what the ideas are in the room and like sort of have we clustered ideas? Have we decided on stuff? It's really not easy. And so like the facilitator might do that, but often it's really easy as a participant to just be like, I have these 2 tools, right? I'm just going to write some ideas and put them up on the board. As Rebecca says something, I put it up on a board. As Adriana says something, I put it up on a board. It's very passive. I'm not like stealing anybody's power. It's just like it's in service to the meeting. It's amazing how that visual and just like something to focus on, even if you're not leading the meeting, you're like an underling who's just like writing notes and putting them on the board, makes a big change. So that clustering activity we did, you don't have to be the person that owns the meeting to add value, I think, to do something like that. Simple.
Those are great techniques. Thank you. Could you say more about how you prevent deference to hierarchy in meetings? You're getting at that already with the guerrilla facilitation, I think.
You know, me and Lee, we have a big problem with authority, so we're happy to talk to you about this. But I would like to say that in every time, but in a sense, especially now, we need to be able to actually being open to challenging authority. But this way of challenging authority that we're doing in here is a little tiny different, because you have noticed that we are not taking all the time. We're not taking so much. We are providing spaces. We are providing a lot of space for everyone to talk. So I would say that even if you have problem with authority, this is an actual structure meeting in which you deploy your own authority in a very much more open way to do it. Because I think that the issue of deference happens when I have, for example, to speak in public. There is a liberating structure which we love, in which everybody write an idea on a piece of paper and then pass it around without writing their name. There is no deference to authority. We don't know who wrote that idea, and we judge it at face value. So liberating structures are filled with those kind of moments where you don't personalize the input. And you have noticed how fast we are moving also, which I think it's a key element of what you're seeing here. We're not moving fast to torture you. We're moving fast because we know that when you move fast, you're less attached to your own idea. You're more open to change it. You're also much more ready to actually listen to what other ideas have, because you have a bit more energy and you're not attached so much. Same applies here to the deference to authority. There is not, when you get rid of the podium, the deference to the podium disappears. In an actual room, there is no podium when you are doing liberating structures. I mean, even in this moment right now, you are seeing a way for me and Lee to actually deploy our own authority, which I hope you will do in your own, in a different way. So a lot of this liberating structure, when you go at the core, they just provide a very powerful way to redeploy your own authority in a meeting much more productively.
Wait, I have a couple thoughts. So the question is about like hierarchy and authority, and that's problematic here, right? And so I think one of the things that Adriano mentioned is just this idea of anonymity, and I don't think it has to be like super like cloak and dagger, but I think just let's put our ideas on a note card and push them forward is quite different than who among you shall stand up and challenge, is often hard, right? And I think even in well-functioning groups, it's a hard moment there, whereas like to write something down on an anonymous note card is much easier. And then I think there's structures that are sort of quasi-anonymous that we've taught you. So like this 1, 2, 4 all, or this think, pair, share, right? Even if I have an idea that's sort of controversial or weird or whatever, like I think about it, I share it, it sort of gets workshopped, it gets approved, it works up to the top. And now it's like a group of 4 of us saying, whatever it might be, our group of 4 thought it would be, our team would perform better if we had a more flexible hybrid arrangement. That's easier when it's coming from a group of 4 than it's just like, who among you shall challenge our hybrid agreement, right? Like, so I think that's quite different. And then I would also say, people who are leading meetings, I think, often don't really want to be leading meetings, and they're uncomfortable. And so, we have these moments where we say, as the person leading the meeting, who has any ideas? Anyone have any ideas? And then we wait for like 1 second and we go, there were no ideas. Moving on. I'm a great leader, right? But like, you're missing something. And I think just that moment of the think, like give people a minute to think about it, isn't necessarily undermining authority, but I think it's enriching that experience. And as that boss or that CEO or something, like I want feedback. I'm actually a little worried when I ask questions or I ask for suggestions and I get nothing, but I think there's stuff in the room. Just this single, like think all, one all, right? Like if I do nothing other than say, take a minute and think about it, now what's going on is quite different than who's got an idea? Anyone got an idea? Nothing? No? Okay, moving on.
So you've shared these techniques are really valuable to think about, like how to invite voices in a different way. What about when you have invited those voices in and then you have some dominant voices or loud voices that are trying to kind of take over, or that are taking up a lot of space?
Lee, you want to answer that?
I feel like you're the resident expert in dominant groups and whatever. Yeah, I mean, I will say this isn't answering your question. Also, you're very good at this, Rebecca. This is very natural. we just picked you out of a hat, basically. I think it's quite hard to be a lion tamer in a room and have people that are, domineering or difficult. And I think you can go through years and years of facilitation or training to deal with like the disruptive people in a room, and it's quite difficult. So to me, I know I'm avoiding the question. It's almost like, can I create a better path for people to walk through instead of waiting for someone to throw a hand grenade at the end? So, for example, we're not going to talk about this today, but if we set up sort of a red team, blue team, and we say the red team's goal is to like shoot holes in our ideas, it's much more constructive than just saying, so what do you all think? And, Jim, who's just a sourpuss, is like, I hate this idea and you're all stupid. And it's like, it's hard for anyone, like even really experienced, I think, facilitators to be like, so Jim, tell us about your thoughts. So I think I would rather design a meeting with structures that cater, like that brings out discord or brings out opposite ideas or something like that in a healthy way, and know that from the start, as opposed to just sort of like open it up for questions. And then, I mean, this happens all the time. This is a whole other topic. But if we look at town hall formats, right, we basically just take a microphone, we put it in front of a room, and we say, who's angry and would like to yell at the group? And like, strangely, there's a lot of people that are angry and they like to just yell at the group. And then we don't know what to do with it, and everyone walks out of that room frustrated. I think we could all say that town hall meeting could be designed in a better way to be more constructive. I'm on a soapbox here. I care a lot about this thing.
I love that. We're getting to the end of time. Maybe I'll just ask one question that I see from the group in the chat is, where have you seen groups go? And I think this is like, oh, or when they're using these tools.
I'm glad you picked up on that. I thought Casey was just sort of stuttering there. I didn't read it that way. Well, well done. Adriano, what's your aha moment with groups with this stuff?
I have to tell you that, I mean, just to answer this question, I really would like to answer at the feeling level as a facilitator. And I think you can answer this question at the participant level in this meeting itself. I mean, just monitor and audit what went through your mind throughout this experience and what was different compared to other experience. I don't know about you. When I do this kind of meetings with liberating structure, I'm much more relaxed and much more at ease. I don't want to say that I'm having fun all the time, but I'm saying that it's much easier to relate to people and to really go through an intellectual quest with other people and discuss ideas or decisions. And so I would say that this is the place, I mean, where normally liberating structure is at its best. In my experience, liberating structure is at its best in almost every organization for the same reason that I told you earlier. The bar is so low. Meetings are really, really troubled places in many organizations. And so much so that people now want to abolish meeting for how bad they are. And I have to say, I'm always for abolishing a meeting. But here's the point. There are moments, and those moments are important, where you come together. And ultimately, that moment is a moment where you define in your culture of your organization, what do we owe to each other? What does it mean to relate? Those are very big philosophical questions, but what I love about liberating structure is they create a vehicle to actually show another kind of answer to this question. And the answer is about large principles. I don't know if you guys noticed, I dropped an actual document, I'm going to do it again, that speak about what are underlining principles in this work. And, you know, we could talk for hours about those principles. We are not even assuming that everybody would agree with those principles, but I would say that those principles that I just dropped in this, that are in this kind of image that I dropped, I think they speak to what is possible.
Yeah, let me chime in on that. So the oohs and ahs of Casey's thought. I mean, the first thing that I would say, like when I first did this training, or the 2-day training, and I just dropped that in, you know, we do these occasionally. I think this moment here, in a way, because I know it would typically be a PowerPoint, and like I would get up as the speaker and I would do a 45-minute PowerPoint, and I'd take 5 minutes questions, and I would have spent like 10 hours putting together the PowerPoint and animating the wingdings or whatever, right? And with basically zero prep time, you guys just came up with questions. Rebecca's just like, here are your questions. Let me ask you questions. It's basically zero of my time. It's basically zero of Rebecca's time. It's, I think, easier for you all to watch us interact as humans instead of do a presentation. Which doesn't say you should never do presentations, but I think they can often be replaced by conversation. So I think that's an aha moment for me. There's a technique that we're not going to get into that's a peer consulting technique called Troika that I absolutely love, and like it just blows people's minds, and we do that in a 2-day session. And then the other thing that I would just say is, if we go, like the sort of aha moment is, if we go back to, sort of typical meeting formats, often we don't hear from most people. We don't hear from the people in the room who are quieter or younger or more junior or whatever, and we lose a lot of really valuable stuff. Often the best ideas never get heard in this meeting because, like, Steve just talks the whole time, and everyone else is like, that's Steve, he's the boss, he talks. And when we do this, right, we get Maria has a really awesome idea, and Maria shares it with, Aaron or Eric, right? And they're like, that's a really awesome idea, Maria, who's the youngest, smallest, junior, Latina person in this room, who ordinarily would not be the person who's standing up and talking in many cases, right? That idea wins out. It wins out again, and then that idea gets adopted by the group. And I think those are the aha moments for me that I'm like, yeah, Maria's idea was the best damn idea in the room. It won out. That's awesome. Instead of like, Steve had another dumb idea. And we just heard from Steve for 10 minutes. Thanks, Steve. Steve's a good dude, though. He's a nice dude. I like him. Those are my aha moments. You want to wrap this, Adrian? Yeah, I don't know.
Yes, this closes our liberating structure. I want to thank Rebecca for being an awesome celebrity interviewer, Rebecca. Really, really nice. Thank you very much. You jumped on this right away. What did we just do here? What we did is we actually put Rebecca in a position to ask us questions so we could make the point that we would have made with PowerPoint. That's pretty much what happened here. So when you have a stakeholder that he wants to present 60 slides, you can ask them, what are the 5, 7, 10 ideas that you want to absolutely need to share in this meeting? And you turn those ideas into answers to questions. And then you find a nice person like Rebecca, again, thank you, Rebecca, it was really nice, to actually ask you those questions in talk show style, like we just did. And, I've done one time at the World Bank a session like this that lasted 3 days. And one day was just PowerPoint presentation. We turned them all around into celebrity interviews. That's the name of this liberating structure. And only one person decided not to. And what do you think happened? People said that was the most boring presentation of all, because, of course, there is a very different way to engage with content if you're doing in a talk show style versus an actual presentation style. Now, what I want to add, when we do this in real time, and we didn't want to overwhelm poor Rebecca, who just was jumping and asking questions, but what we would also do, we'd have 2 people. One person would actually go around the room, pick up questions from people against anonymous, and he would pass it to the interviewer so that people don't do the usual ritual of raising hand and speak so that everybody can see how cool I am, and ask the question for that purpose. The questions are, again, randomized, talking about how do you take that out, and then a pass to the presenter. And that means that the questions are really addressed in real time. So again, this is not a panel discussion, because in a panel discussion, there is not an actual point that is decided in advance that you want to make. This is really what is that the main person want to talk about it and needs to talk to this group. Okay, let's turn that into an interview. That's the actual idea here. Every moment in which you are thinking or tempted to present PowerPoint, you can ask yourself, how would this instead look if it would be an interview? An interview of one person asking question to another person. We have done two-person answering questions, so that's why it seemed like a panel, but it's not really a panel. It could also be only one person sitting there. I've done one time in a federal agency, there were 4 directors. Each of them had a PowerPoint of 45 minutes, and that would have taken the entire morning. Instead, we did 1 hour of celebrity interview with all 4, and we managed to address all the content. Go ahead, Lee.
I'm just thinking like it's 3 hours of doing this training. Usually we do it in 2 days in person, and it's a fun challenge to try and get it down to 3 hours. But boy, I really want to keep saying lots and lots of stuff. Okay. We're getting towards the end here, and we're going to have you try and apply some of what you have seen and done and learned. I'm just going to quickly share again what you have seen. It looks like I'm doing a PowerPoint, but I promise I'm not. So we've done a number of things here today. We did that chat storm at the beginning. We did the impromptu networking, which was just the like really quick sort of like 1 minute a piece in pairs or threes. We did 1, 2, 4 all, right? This way of sort of brainstorming ideas through a small group. We did TRIZ, that opposite question, the what, who, when, that matrix of like, let's get some action out of this thing. We took breaks, right? Seems like not something that we should mention, but I think strategically is a really important part of running a good meeting and getting groups to function well. Adriano went through those different kinds of meetings and like, let's not try and do everything at the same time because it gets to be kind of messy. We did min specs, right? This idea of like, SpaceX or like, if we have to decide what are the most important things, let's do that. And then we just did the celebrity interview, which is basically we're replacing PowerPoint with a conversation. So there are lots and lots of things that we could throw at you. I mean, like there is a toolbox with hundreds of potential things that we could throw, but like this is the 10 that you have. And we're going to put you in some breakout rooms. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes. You may not be able to get to everyone's meeting, but if at least one of you in that group would say, look, here's the challenge that I have with this meeting. Could we apply 1, maybe 2 of these things to that meeting and make it even just a little bit better, right? And I'm looking out in here, and I know some of you are doing like big, like Eric, I'm looking at like there's big alumni events, and that's quite different than in like a 4-person team meeting. And there's some people who are doing 500-person community meetings out here. But like, could you take something like that or from this list and apply it to what you're working on? So when you get into that room, your assignment is to say, here's the challenge I'm working on. I think I could apply this. What do you think, friends who are in this room with me? And have a conversation. It's about 10 minutes. I'd like you to come up with something like, what's something that you could do to fix a meeting that you run or you're in? Make sense? Okay. You will be in, let's try this again. Groups of 3. I'm going to give you 10 minutes and let's see what you come up with. Again, you've got the booklet. It's open book. Go through and see what you can come up with. We'll see you in 10 minutes. Come up with some good answers. Welcome back. It's the Energizer. It's the breakout room. People enjoy it. They come back smiling.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they were talking about us, Lee. I have a sense that would happen.
I thought they were talking about meetings. Okay, I think that's everybody coming back here. Just 1 or 2 volunteers, maybe. Like we couldn't be in all of the room. We couldn't be in any of the rooms actually. But what did you come up with? What did you think about? What did you talk about? What ideas do you have? How are you going to fix your meetings? Casey, I see your hand, but I'm going to go to you in a minute, and you don't know it yet. So not Casey. Anyone but Casey. Bruce.
Thank you, Lee, and everybody. One of we talked about the use of TRIZ, and how the structure of TRIZ, people, you get them engaged and they're having fun because they're doing the opposite of what they think they're going to be asked to do. By what's the worst? What can we do to get the worst possible outcomes here? Shoot the boss or whatever it is. And then when you give them the twist question that flips it to, are you doing any of these things? And now you've got them on the other side and all right, what are we going to do about it? It can be very helpful and productive and fun, which a lot of liberating structures stuff is about.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thanks, Bruce. I mean, one of the things that people struggle with is how do I incorporate all this stuff into my daily life? And all we did is we asked this question backwards. No one's even going to notice, right? But it does change the dynamic here. Thanks, Bruce. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, knowing what to use when.
Yeah.
And so, getting comfortable with all of the concepts in the manual and picking the ones that are appropriate for the appropriate meeting. They're all good tactics. Obviously going to be used in different settings, but and getting comfortable with doing them, practicing a little bit, and being able to be as fluid as you all are with implementing those things, because nobody wants to see a leader break down in technology land and bust the mural and those kinds of things. But being coy and doing a little practice internally with your team, sharing these things with them on one-on-ones and things like that will make us all more seamless in our ability to implement these when needed.
Yeah, and I would say it's a great point. What I would say is we've thrown a bunch of stuff at you. My hope is you use all of it and use it a ton. But is there one thing? Is there two things that you can hold on to? And does that matter? And as Adriano said before, we've all said this a lot. No offense to any of you, but in the world of meetings, the bar is very low. So almost anything that you throw at it from here in almost any way at any time is probably going to be better than whatever happened beforehand, right? So even if it's just Post-it notes, or it's just 1, 2, 4 all, or it's just 1, 2 all or something, it's probably way different than just does anyone have any ideas? No? Okay, right. So yeah, for sure. Thanks. Terry Phillips.
Wonderful. And yes, to all of what you just said, one of the things that we talked about was the fact that this, we each talked about little design issues that we might have in that or peer mentoring and co-designing with others is really helpful to get some new ideas and kind of talk through a structure that you might have in your next workshop or meeting. So it's one of the things we chatted about too.
Yeah, for sure. I think I'm going to cap it there and move on to Adriano on the same topic. But yeah, I would say, our hope is that often people are walking in without a toolbox. And my hope is here's a toolbox. Now let's think about how to use those tools. Do you have to use all of them all the time? No, use one of them. Right. So yeah, I think that's great. Adriano, tell us about making change in small ways.
Well, I have to say, there's so many liberating structure. And I don't know if you noticed, I dropped into the chat the actual larger list of all liberating structure. And I put a sign on the one that we have done today. So I don't know if you can see that. But if you go back and see that, you see that there are 7 liberating structures that we have talked about today, or that you are somehow lived in a virtual environment. I'm going to talk to you about the last one that we're going to talk today, which is by far my favorite liberating structure. It's called 15% solution. Now, already the name should prompt you on what kind of work this is. So think about in your mind as an exercise about a big problem that you're trying to address. And I know that if you're here because you want to learn liberating structure, probably you have very clear a problem that you are trying to address. It could be disengagement in my company. It could be inequity in society, which my group is trying to address. It could be a new price policy so the customer can be better served, but need to be approved at 3 layers up the chain. Whatever is the issue that you're addressing, I know that you put a lot of pressure on yourself because you want to solve 100% of that problem. Now, here is what the power of this liberating structure is. We give you only 15% of the solution, not 100% solution. This is an invitation to think in smaller, tinier portion of what could be the solution. Bottom line, you have an issue. Maybe it could be racism in your organization, could be lack of collaboration in your department, could be lack of budget for doing the right thing. Where do you have discretion, autonomy, and freedom? Where you don't need to ask permission to anyone to actually make a difference. Not a 100% difference, only a 15% difference. I love this liberating structure because it reframes big, large societal or organizational problem into what is possible as far as my own contribution. And why do I like it? Because it's one of those liberating structure that can be used at the organizational and team level in a facilitation meeting, as well as at an individual level. In this moment right now, when you feel powerless, what is that thing that you can do to make a difference without asking for permission? Just reallocating your time, reallocating your discretion, rethinking about the resources that you already have. Now, you don't have to solve the problem. You have to give your little tiny contribution. I love how this question disarms any possible cynicism, any possible larger conversation on systemic thinking, which normally get us astray or disappointed about what will actually end up really happening. And so this question is a question that I would say is much more than a liberating structure. I mean, this is an invitation to really lead and go into the world and use these tools, because you have a little tiny discretion and we would like for you to use it now. So what I'm asking you to do in the next couple of minutes is to think, where do you have discretion, where you don't need to ask permission, where do you have the freedom to take and use what you have learned in this class and use it immediately, possibly in the next 48 hours. Don't wait a week. Don't become an expert. You don't need to be an expert. You have seen all that you need to. I know that some of you approach this and say, wait a minute, I've just come to a 3-hour session and I heard these two guys talking. I'm not ready. You were born ready. You now know the little thing that you can do. The only thing that separates you from doing it, it's you. Take a step. I'm going to give you some silence to reflect. Where do you have the possibility of implementing a 15% solution?
You know, we said it after an hour and a half. Hopefully we're saying it after 3 hours. That feels like a fast morning, I hope, for all of you. Just a couple other things as we sort of close up here. We've mentioned this a couple times that it's kind of hard to say what are your favorite kids here that you just want to cover in the 3 hours, because we usually do this for about 2 days. So Casey, this is my moment for you. So you've seen more of this, and I guess I was going to say you should all come and you should do 2 days and fill your toolbox, but that would just be me. Casey, tell me what your expertise or your experience has been. But you're on mute though. You got to start there.
I thought unmuted. I'm a professional facilitator for a long time, and 2 days of the league completely changed the way I thought about running events and meetings. And in one of the breakout rooms, Becky said something I thought was amazing, and I love the way that Lee and Adriano put it, was, and when you give people tables, they put their laptops on it, right? And since people get on their laptops, they're signaling that they have a better place to be. So the question is, how do you ramp up the engagement so they don't? So they're actually fully engaged. They feel like they contributed, feel like they were part of the group. And the way Adriana said it, I'm not sure. It's hard to do this in camera, but I think I've seen you in person where you put your hand close to the ground and say, the bar for meetings is so low. We're just trying to raise it just a little bit. And I think all of us have been in a meeting beforehand where we feel the volume being pumped inside the room. And all of a sudden our spine gets sponsored by the letter C, right? Or you start wanting to take a nap. I think all these tools and what Lee and Adriana do is help you have better engaging events. And I pretty much, love these guys. So I'm not sure that's where you want to leave, but.
But so let me ask you though, because I mean, so you've got a whole toolbox of this that's more than 3 hours. Like, how do you use them? Or what do you use that's not, Oh, it's like before an event, I pull up the Liberating Structures website and go through their strings, which is a way to link things together to get to events. And one of the things I really like about the tools are the step-by-step instructions and how you can, and their tips and their tricks about how to adjust and change them. And though that's just one of the tools in both your guys' toolkit, right? So that's just one example. So for me, I think to answer your question, how do I use these? I almost use them every day. The 1, 2, 4 all is a great way to get groups discussion. One of my directors, he would always end the meeting with any questions, and the 80 people in the audience, and the same 2 or 3 people would speak up every time, right? So the question is, how do you get all those voices inside the room, part of the conversation, so they feel like they're part of the group? Or actually, better yet, the way Adriana said is that it's not necessarily not feel part of the group, that they are part of the group, that they own the meeting, right? When people are coming to this event, everybody should be owning that meeting, because when you get a sense of ownership, you feel like you belong there. So I think these tools, when used right, or just used, get people more involved and more engaged, and actually have a deeper sense of commitment to the team and the group they're working with. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's super fun to teach this stuff. I mean, I think it's very eye-opening. First time I took this training, it was like, wow, like this is, it's quite different. So in the chat, this is the 3 hour. It's like, we hope that you're going to use stuff. If you want to do longer, end of April, we're doing a session here in DC. We'll probably do one in New York later in the year. You got those links, and we'll stay after. We'll answer some questions. We often find that when we just open it up to questions, you get some edge case sort of questions and stuff. So we'll stay after if people want to ask questions. You've got links to our own little calendars here. If you have a question about any of this work, Adriano tends to do a lot of like organizational change stuff, leadership stuff. I tend to do a lot more like sort of events kind of stuff. If we had to divide these two, although we do a lot of overlapping work. And we've got those questions. We're going to get actual answers out to you from the stuff that you submitted. We'll wrap that up and send it back out. And if you've got stuff that's really, really pressing, send us an email for the thing tomorrow that you're leading. But yeah, I think it's been, it's the first time that we've done this half day online. I hope that it has proven helpful and valuable and enjoyable for all of you. It's nice to see that people are still here hours later, right? And I think that's indicative of something. And to go back to what Adriana was just saying, think about that 15%. What can you do? It doesn't have to be 100%. You don't have to do everything, but what's something that you can do that's small? Final thoughts, Adriana, before we let people go, or we hang out afterwards?
My recommendation is to just take one and use at least one of those structures right away and see how it feels. You had the experience on the receiving end, so you know how it feels, and see what happened there. You can start small and use one right away, and then see what happened, and then build on there. Or you can wait, a couple of weeks, study all the books, and then do one. I mean, whatever feels better. My recommendation is to give it a try in the next 48 hours if you can have a meeting, and see what completely different environment you define. I use it in academia. I use it in the nonprofit world. I've used it in the corporate world. I have a major strategic retreat tomorrow with a financial, very serious company, and guess what? we are using some liberating structures. You don't have to use them all, but use what's important, because ultimately you want to follow the purpose of the meeting. But if you have questions about how to use them in your particular sector, ask, because between me and Lee, we have really used them, in a variety of environments. And, IT, commercial environment, it could be finance, in consulting companies, in museums, assistance organization, academics environment, international organization. I mean, it doesn't matter the context. We will be happy to provide additional guidance about your work and how this can be helped.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Lee, I am one of those that need to run at 12:30 as well.
I know that.
So,
hang out.
I really want to tell you that this has been an absolute pleasure. I really love, liberating structure. I imagine that it shows, and I'm really looking forward to be with all of you, maybe in another opportunity. Thank you very, very much, everyone. And Lee, please, at 1:30, we can reconnect and debrief today, okay?
Sounds good. Yep. Thank you all for coming, staying here, playing with us, hopefully learning. I'll stay and hang out a little bit. If you got questions, you can reach us as well. Thanks so much.